Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is For a Pause in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Today I have some fantasy recommendations that will help Enya be the strongest realm. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm going to be participating in Realm of the Readathon, or Realmathon, that's hosted by Cassidy over at Covers with Cassidy. I'll link her and her announcement video down below. And surprisingly enough, I did not choose the team romance. I chose team fantasy. There's a reason for that. You'll find out later on. But basically, I have a lot of fantasy books that I need to read this year. And I thought, what better time to do that than to join the fantasy team of this readathon and read them all April. This readathon is very competitive based, so there are 4 different realms. I'm not going to go into all the details about this readathon. You can check the announcement video down below. But essentially, you're trying to read books that get as many points for your team so that you win the readathon, right? So I have done the work. My friends, I have done the work. I have 18 books to recommend to you guys that all get Enya a ton of points. I'm going to break them down. I have them broken down into like classic fantasy, or just like, typical fantasy. I've got some cozy fantasy in case you're maybe new to the genre. And then I have some hybrid genres because you get bonus points if it's a like fantasy romance or fantasy sci-fi. So I have some of those as well. If you're not participating in Realmathon or if you're not on Team Enya, this video still could be beneficial to you. You don't have to click off or anything like that. If you are at all interested in fantasy recommendations, especially some that are more beginner friendly, stay tuned. So I'm going to be talking about these books and giving you a minimum point that they can accrue for Enya. Now, I'm not going to be talking about a few of the prompts. So for the most part, I've given about 3 prompts, and then you can add in these if they apply to you, because they're like the personal ones, right? For the attack prompts, so these are the ones that you're attacking another one. If you listen to it on audiobook, obviously I didn't add that because I don't know if you're listening to it on audio. That's a -1. TBR Vet, that's a -2. A book you didn't buy is a -4. So if you're doing things, a lot of these books are on KU, or you can get from the library or things like that. So that's a big point jump for you. And then there's a prompt which is -6, which is stealing a book from someone else's TBR in another realm. So maybe you could be on the lookout for some of these. Like I said, they are some hybrid genres, so you'll see some probably in the horror or romance. And some of these are host favorites, so you should see them on other people's TBRs as well. For defense, so these are the positive ones for Enya. If it's an ebook, that's a +1 prompt. I'm not adding that in. If it was a buddy read, that's a +1. There's several buddy reads that are happening all month long, so that you'll be able to add easily. A book out of your comfort zone is a +2. A new to you author is a +5. I have some self-published and indie books in here. And then if you haven't read from any of these authors before, highly recommend it because you'll get a lot of points for it. And then the last one is spell your name on the title. And obviously I can't help you with that one, but that's a +6. So definitely if that works for any of you, and any of these books fit, that's a way to do that. And it can be any name. Like it doesn't have to be your whole name. All right, so let's start off with the just basic fantasy. They're not necessarily hybrid or anything like that. And I don't have any order to these. They're just the order that I pulled them off of the shelf. So, 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I'm pulling this one because it's obviously gotten a resurgence. Season 2 of Shadow and Bone just came out, and they're talking about a 6 of Crows spinoff. So I went ahead and put this one on here. Shadow and Bone would also work for a lot of these prompts. So know that. If you're defending Enya, this will be a +4 for mental health rep, +2 for a book with multi-POVs, and a +3 for a YA or middle grade book. You get the 10 points for it being fantasy, and according to Goodreads, it is 465 pages, although like the paperback and hardback might be a little bit different. So if we are defending, then that is a +39 for Enya. If we would like to attack another realm, which we can attack any of the other 3 realms, you can get a -5 for dysfunctional family. This is definitely a dysfunctional family. It's a found family, but it's still dysfunctional. You can get -3 for an illustrated spine. The paperback, not so much, but the hardcover definitely has a like little drawings at the bottom. And you can also get a -1 for a dark cover. Obviously black, pretty dark cover, right? You still get the 20 points to defend your realm for the page count, but then with the 10 points for it being your genre, that means that we are also attacking with 19 points. Book that I'm still in the middle of, but I'm absolutely loving, and I actually reached out to the author to see which prompts this would fit, is A Touch of Light by Tiago Abdallah. Tiago is actually doing Realmathon with us and is on Team Enya, so I think this is a great book for you guys to read, just saying. If you want to defend Enya with this book, you can get a +6 for it being a host favorite, which means that you also can read the sequel, A Shade of Madness, or the prequel, A Prelude to Ashes, and get the points for that, like the +6, because if it's in the same series, you can still count it as host favorite. You can also get a +6 for Source of Light on the cover or in the title. It's literally called The Touch of Light, so it also has a source of light too. The sun is shining through. You get a +4 for Mental Health Wrap, and you get a +2 for multi-POVs. It is your team genre, and it's 453 pages, so if you are defending Enya, you will get 48 points. I'm looking down at my computer, so if you see me not looking at the camera, that's why. I'll actually link this spreadsheet down below if you would like to have all of these prompts. You can reap the benefits of all of my hard work. If, however, you would like to attack another realm with A Touch of Light, you can do that. You can get a -5 for a dysfunctional family. You can get a -3 for an illustrated spine, a -2 for a 2022 release, and you'll actually get the 2023 release, which I can't remember the points, but if you're reading A Shade of Madness, that's a 2023 release. And this one is the author's debut, so you can get a -1 for that. Still keeping the 20 points defending for the page count, you will be attacking with 21 points. Next up, we have Year of the Reaper. This is a book that not a lot of people talk about, but I thought it was fantastic. This is a very classic fantasy story about the Black Death, essentially, and someone trying to find an assassin, and two very snarky, quirky characters that go on adventures together. But if you're defending Enya, you can get a +3 for YA or middle grade, a +2 for a book that plays with history, since it's taking place around a actual historical event. It's 324 pages, so you would get 25 points to defend Enya. And if you are attacking, you can get a -3 for an illustrated spine. This one definitely is illustrated. I don't know if the actual one is, but one of them is. And a -1 for a dark cover. This one is obviously very black, but the regular one is also as well. So this one would attack another realm for 14 points. Next up, we have The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. And there's actually a buddy read happening in Enya for the entire Chorus of Dragons. So that's the +1 point for all of those. If you want to add that, I didn't add those into these points, but there is an ongoing buddy read. If you are defending Enya, you can get a +2 for multi-POV. And you can get a +1 for a book with a map. It's 560 pages, meaning that you can get Enya 33 points. And if you attack another realm with this, you can get a -3 for an illustrated spine. It does have the dragon on it. You can get a -1 for a dark cover. I feel like this is still a pretty dark cover, and also the hardback, I think, is black or gray. And you can also get a -3 for monsters on the cover, because it has a dragon. Sorry for the ring light. This one would still get you your 20 points for Enya, and then it would attack another realm for 17 points. Next up, we have Fire of the Forebears by L.A. Buck. This is a very classic fantasy about the daughter of a thief and the son of a prince. It's been a while since I've read this one. I've read a lot of books since then. This is not a book that I personally loved. However, I know that there are some people that did really like it, so this is why I'm putting it on here, and it gets you a lot of points. If you are defending Enya, you can get a +6 for a source of light on the cover. There's this campfire going on down here. Also, fire. That's the source of light. You can get a +4 for author that uses initials. And you can get a +2 for a book with multi-POVs. This is obviously your genre, so you get the 10 points, but it's also indie, so you get another 10 points there. And it's 534 pages, so it is quite a chonker. But if you're defending Enya, you get 52 points with this. If you're attacking another realm, you can get a -2 for a 2022 release. You can get a -1 for a debut book. And you can get a -1 for a dark cover. Again, you get the 20 points for a self-published fantasy. And that means you'll be attacking it for 24 points. Lastly, in the classic, just general fantasy, we've got City of Brass by S.I. Chakraborty. This was one of my favorite books of last year, and I absolutely loved it. It's the first book in a trilogy, plus there's a novella that goes along with it. And It is a Egyptian-inspired fantasy, or Middle Eastern-inspired fantasy with jinn and there's a lot of politics, a lot of magic. Love this. This one also does some serious work. Okay, if you are defending Enya, you can get a +6 for a source of light on the cover. Again, we've got this like fire happening here. You can get a +4 for the author who uses initials. You can get a +2 for multi-POV. And you can get a +2 for a book that plays with history, because this is kind of a historical fantasy. It's 532 pages, which means that you are defending Enya for 45 points. If you're attacking another realm, it also does quite a bit of work. You can get a -5 for a dysfunctional family. You can get a -3 for title is a place but not a proper noun for city. You can get a -1 for an author's debut book. And you can also get a -1 for a dark book, which means that you will be attacking another realm for 20 points. Now I'm going to be talking about some more like cozy fantasies. Maybe if you are new to fantasy and you're not ready to like dive headfirst into dragons and monsters and wars, I have some alternatives for you. First off, one of my absolute favorite books of all times, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I have multiple copies of this, but this one actually does quite a bit of work as well. And actually, like as I was trying to figure this out, I thought maybe I might reread this year because it's actually been several years since I've read it. So if you're defending Enya, you could get a +6 if you kind of wanted to stretch it for a source of light on the cover. So this one has a bunch of stars on it. I would consider that kind of light, and then this one has like actual flames on here, so I would be counting because I've already read and tabbed this one, so I'll probably read this one this time, so I'll be counting it. You also get a +2 for a book that has multi-POVs. There's 2 main characters in this book, and you can go back and forth between the 2 of them. And you also get a +2 for a book that plays with history. This actually takes place in 1900s England, so it definitely has a steampunk vibe to it, a historical vibe to it, but then obviously with this circus that just like pops up in the middle of nowhere. Essentially that's what this book is about. It's about a circus that pops up at night and then just like seemingly vanishes the next day. And it is about the people that are in that circus and someone trying to be in that circus. And this book is very controversial because a lot of people really don't like this book. And this is one of those books that like you do not give this book 3 stars. You give it 1 star or you give it 5 stars. There's really no in between. I just happen to fall in the world of absolutely loving this book, as you can tell. This book, there's a big discrepancy in page count, so depending on what you're reading, my paperback copy is 516 pages, so if you're defending Enya, you get a whopping total of 40 points. If you're attacking another realm, you can do that with a -5 for a dysfunctional family. Specifically, the father-daughter relationship is very messed up. You can get a -3 for a title that is a place but not a proper noun, circus. And depending on which cover you have, you can get a -3 for an illustrated spine. This one doesn't have that much of an illustration at all, but the hardcover actually has this little part on the spine. So that means that you will be attacking another realm for 18 points. This is definitely more of a defense book than a attack book. Then we have Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons. Again, this was a book that I didn't necessarily love, but there is definitely an audience for this. If you like cozy, whimsical fantasy, and especially if you like Regency romance or Regency-style books, but throw in a little bit of magic, this is the book for you. This is about a woman who gets an inheritance, and in that inheritance there is a stone that ends up being a dragon egg and hatches, and there's a dragon. There's a little dragon in London. So if you are defending, you can get a +6 for the source of light on the cover. There's fire in the background. You can get a +3 for an underrated book. I think outside of the people that are reading the SPFBO books, not a lot of people talk about this book. And you can get a +2 for a book that plays with history. This, like I said, is a Regency-style book, so it's taking place in England, but there happens to be a dragon. You'll get 20 points because it's a fantasy and it's also self-published. So if you're defending Enya, you'll get 41 points. If you are attacking another realm, you can get a -5 for the dysfunctional family. The main character and her sister really do not get along. That's very dysfunctional. You can get a -5 for title is a movement. In here somewhere in this very long title is feeding. So that's a movement. You can get a -3 for a monster on the cover. Obviously, there's a very cute, adorable little dragon there. And you can get a -3 for an illustrated spine. I'm counting this because it looks like it's like an old leather book. So I feel like that's illustrated. So that means that you are attacking another realm for 31 points. Another book that is on the SPFBO list, and so a lot of people are reading it, at least in, the circles of booktube that I am in, and that is Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater. This is probably one of my favorite books that I've read all year. This one doesn't do a whole lot of work as far as attacking, so I'm only going to talk about defending points. It is a fantasy and it is an indie, so you automatically get the 20 points there. You can get a +4 for a book with mental health rep, and you can get a +3 for an underrated book. It's very small. It's only 250 pages, which means you can read it super fast. This might be a really good Peace Talks book. But because of all those extra points, you will be defending Enya for 37 points. Another super short book that could be used for Peace Talks is Burning Roses by S.L. Huang. This is a fairy tale inspired book about like two older people within fairy tales. It's the Archer and Red Riding Hood, essentially, but they're like swapping war stories. It was an interesting book. If you are defending Enya, you can get a +6 for a source of light on the cover. There are these, there's fire on the cover. You can get a +4 for an author who uses initials. You can get a +4 for a retelling. There's a ton of retellings in here. This is very Into the Woods-esque, where we just throw all of the fairy tales at it and see what sticks. And we can get a +3 for an underrated book. Honestly, I've never seen anyone talk about this book. So if you're defending Enya, you'll get 27 points. And then if you're attacking another realm, you can get a -6 for a word that is associated with another realm. I'm using roses as a term that would be considered for romance. Flowers, stuff. And then also you can get a -6 for an Own Voices book. This is an Asian author, and one of the main characters is Asian. So if you're attacking another realm, you'll do that with 22 points. All right, starting the hybrid genres. Also, this one is pretty cozy. We have Scales and Sensibility by Stephanie Burgess. This is another book that I read for the SPFBO. I read this one late last year. And this is quite literally a Regency romance, but with pet dragons. Personally, I think that this one was done better than Miss Percy's Pocket Guide, but I think that if you really loved one, you'll like the other. This book really does the work because it is a fantasy, it is an indie, and it's a hybrid genre, so you automatically are out the gate with 30 points. If you're defending Enya, you can get a +4 for a retelling. This is kind of a Sense and Sensibility retelling. You can get a +3 for an underrated book, and you can get a +2 for a book that plays with history. It's 380 pages, which means that you are defending Enya with a whopping 49 points. If you're attacking another realm, you can get a -3 for a monster on the cover. A little dragon back there. And you can get a -5 for a dysfunctional family. As with most Regency era romances, all families are dysfunctional. But this one particularly, because she does kind of steal her cousin's dragon. So, oops. All right, another hybrid genre. This is a fantasy horror book, and that is In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland. This is a book that I do not talk about very often, but it was amazing. I read it a couple years ago. It was one of my favorite books that I had read that year. This is about undead spirits. And if you have magic, you are assigned an undead spirit to like help control you. And there's like, you're in the underworld at one point, in like hell, there's like zombies. This is very queer. It is poly, and there's so much representation in it, so I absolutely love that. So if you are defending Enya, you can use a book with an emotion for +5. I would definitely say that Ravenous is an emotion. You can get a +4 for author using an initials. And a +3 for a middle grade or YA book. This is technically a YA fantasy, but it's definitely on the high end of. It's 390 pages, so that means that you will be defending Enya for 42 points. If you're attacking another realm, you can get a -6 for an Own Voices, as the author is queer. You can get a -3 for a monster on the cover. She's technically a monster. Technically she is. Just believe me. And you can also get a -6 for a word that's associated with another realm. I would say that dark would probably be sanctum, spooky. That makes sense, right? Okay. That means that you'll be attacking another realm for 35 points. Then we have another fantasy romance in Half a Soul, again by Olivia Atwater, but this is not an indie published book, so you don't get the points for that one. But you get the points for it being a fantasy romance, so still get 20 points. This one, if you are defending Enya, just gets the +2 for a book that plays with history, and then also being the hybrid genre and the fantasy, so you get the 20 points there. And it is 304 pages, which means that you're defending Enya for 32 points. A book that would be fantastic for Peace Talks, because there are 3 volumes, is Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe. This is a Hades and Persephone's retelling, and I mean, the art style is Just absolutely beautiful. Love this one. If you're defending Enya, you can get a +4 for a retelling and also +4 for mental health rep. There's a lot of mental health rep throughout these books. You don't get page count for graphic novels. You just basically say everything is under 200 pages, but you'll still be defending Enya for 28 points. If you're attacking another realm, I think all 3 of them were 2022 releases. You can get a -3 for the illustrated spine, and you can get a -5 for a dysfunctional family. It's a Greek retelling. It's obviously a dysfunctional family. So you'll be attacking another realm for 30 points. Next up, my favorite book of the year last year was Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. This book does the work. Let me tell you, you can defend Enya for so many points with this one. This is a fantasy sci-fi crossover. It is about a brother and sister who are on opposite sides of the rebellion. I realize that I have done terribly explaining these books to you, but this video would be an hour long if I explained everything to you. But essentially, gay fantasy Star Wars is what this book is. It is a host favorite, so if you're defending Enya, you get +6 for that, and you could read the entire trilogy and get +6 for all 3 of those. You can get a +6 for Source of Light on the cover. It's quite literally called Ashes of the Sun, which is a source of light. You can get a +5 for a weather-related word in the title, also sun, and you can get a +4 for a book with mental health rep. It's 592 pages, however, it reads very quickly. So don't let that scare you, but you can defend Enya for a whopping 61 points. If you are attacking another realm, you get the -5 for the dysfunctional family. Again, 2 siblings, opposite sides of the rebellion, revolution. They're going to get some dysfunction. And a -3 for an illustrated spine, which means that you are attacking another realm for 28 points. Definitely more of a defense book. Another fantasy romance, we have From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I really enjoyed this book when I read it earlier this year, and this is a very political fantasy romance, which is probably my perfect brand of it. There's a whole series in here. I've only read the first one though, so maybe I'll read more. This is very much an attack book. So, if you are attacking another realm, you get -6 for a word associated with another realm. Blood, very much related to sanctum. It does have an illustrated spine, so you get -3 for that. And you get -1 for a dark cover. It's 613 pages. Again, though, it reads super fast. I read this book in less than 24 hours. Which means that you're actually getting 30 points for Enya for the page count, but then you're also attacking another realm for 30 points as well. Lastly on my list of recommendations, we have What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This is definitely more of a horror novella, but it has some fantastical elements and some creepy things going on. If you are defending Enya, you can get a +4 for a retelling. It is a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. You can also get a +4 for an author who uses the initials, which means that you are defending Enya for 28 points. Again, this one is more of an attack book. If you're attacking another realm, you can get a -5 for title is a movement, quite literally moves. You can get a -6 for a word that is associated with another realm, dead, sanctum. You can get a -2 for a 2022 release, and you can get a -1 for a book with a dark cover. That means that you are attacking another realm for 34 points. That is by all means not an exhaustive list of fantasy recommendations. It was just an exhaustive list of books that would score well, and I basically was going through my fantasy books, doing points, and then when I got enough for a video, that's where we were. I'll link some other fantasy recommendation videos down below, and hopefully you can go from there. All of the pertinent information is going to be in Cassidy's Realmathon announcement video, so I highly encourage you to check that out. There's a Discord, and that's where a lot of the recommendations are going to come from. And then I will also link the spreadsheet with the recommendations and all of that, basically my master sheet. I will link that down below as well. Let me know down in the comments below a fantasy recommendation that you have, even if you're not participating in Realmathon. Let me know a fantasy recommendation that you have, and we'll talk down there. If you're not feeling chatty, you can put a dragon emoji. That is all I have for you today. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, the links to my Instagram, Goodreads, Twitter, and my Patreon are linked in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.